who aren't having a good week, of course, people living in apartments, you've bought something off the plan and you think, oh, this is all fine and dandy, because of course nowadays we keep importing all these people and no one wants to leave the city. No one wants to go out regional. So we have a housing crisis in all of our major capital cities. So we go, well, the obvious solution is to build up, not out. So we keep putting up all these apartments and people keep buying them because, of course, people need somewhere to live. But a new report from the New South Wales government, which looked at more than 600 brand new or reasonably new strata buildings that have been put up in that state, 53% of them had serious or major defects within 6 years of being built. In other words, we're building absolute crap on the cheap because we are so desperate to give people a place to live. Now, I've often said, who wants to live in these buildings? And people say, well, you're a NIMBY and all this sort of thing. I think the reality of it is that people would prefer not to live in cheaply built apartments, but they don't have much choice because there's not much else affordable around. So we dud ourselves on two counts. We bring all of these people in for whom we don't have housing. Then we go, oh, we've got to build the housing. So we build the housing, but then the housing is rubbish, and then you have to pay more to fix it up further down the line. There are reports of people paying 6 years after they bought this place upwards of $180,000 each to fix major problems within their apartments. Now, clearly there are two problems here. One is that we just have far too many people coming in at too fast a rate, and we're just building stuff way too fast in order to give somewhere for them to live. But there is no oversight over these buildings. You walk through Sydney, Melbourne, any city in this country, and look at the buildings that go up in the CBD and the outskirts of the CBDs now, and think to yourself, in 50 years' time, will I be looking at any of these buildings and thinking, what a marvellous piece of architecture that was? No, the buildings you look in the capital cities and go, geez, that's beautiful, were all built 200 years ago.
Yeah.
They're shortly after colonial Australia was set up. In the infancy of this country, beautiful buildings that were put up. Nowadays, we do everything on the cheap. It's absolute rubbish. And then we find out later on that you actually have to pay the money to make up the money that wasn't spent in the first place. Why can't we just build nice things?
And it's killing owners too. Even if they don't have defects in their building, the Owners Corporation Network of Australia has said that strata fees have gone up 20% in the last 12 months.
Ridiculous.
And most of that is because of insurance premiums that have been going up because there's been problems. So not necessarily in your building, but you're still being penalised because insurers are having to pay out on defects in other buildings. Now, the Minns government did try and address this at the end of last year. They changed the law so that building inspectors can go on site and issue defect notices as buildings are being constructed, which will help a little bit because previously they had to wait until the building was finished. By that time, people have already bought off the plan, so you're stuck with a dud. So that may help a little bit, but it's not good news for people who are buying strata apartments.
No, and I had a good friend of mine here in Sydney who had bought an apartment, had to go to ACAT like several times because one of the serious defects was waterproofing in this case. That it was literally just coming from other apartments. The pipe system was so rubbish. She had water coming through the walls, coming through the ceiling. Then, of course, it gets infested with mould. And that was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix. Now, it was very long and convoluted, went to ACAT several times. She ended up being successful, but I doubt very much that most people get to take that time. She's well connected and had very good lawyers on the case. But most people just go, my gosh, it's not even worth it. And if this is something that you're living in, you don't have that time. No. Where are you going to live while you're getting it fixed? Or if it's an investment property, you don't have renters in it that entire time. So it's always the owners losing out, while those who did the shoddy job just get off scot-free. This report defines serious defects relating to 5 building elements: enclosure, non-compliant cladding, fire safety systems. You'd think that's pretty darn basic. Key services, structure, again, structure, really? Like, can we not get that right? And importantly, waterproofing, because that can make a place absolutely unlivable very quickly.
42% of buildings had waterproof problems. 42%.
That's how common it is. And how gypped would you be, whether you've bought to live in it or as an investment property? It's a massive, massive down payment for anyone making this kind of purchase. It certainly makes you think twice before purchasing anything when over half these properties, they were like, these stratas, they're actually not even soundly built.